Hey, it's Missy Ballison, personal trainer and exercise physiologist for the past 25 years, and today I'm going to share some tips with you. Let's go. I want to dig in today to biofeedback cues. Biofeedback is the messages that our body gives us to let us know what's going on inside. And now there's hundreds of things to look for when it comes to biofeedback. I think that many of us forget the fact that our body is here telling us what's going on. We just have to learn to listen to it. Sometimes we have this kind of innate knowing that something's not quite right, and it's important to listen to that. And we might not know quite where to start to fix this, but just having this inkling that something's not quite right or something is right is important to listen to it, and then just start doing a little bit of digging, because your body is constantly telling you things, okay? So today we're going to talk about a few biofeedback tools and cues that you can use to determine what is going on with you. Okay, we're going to start, and a lot of these are hormone related, because that's the way that our body sends messages, is through hormones, okay? From cell to cell, organ to organ, to the brain, the whole thing. And then that creates an action or a string of actions, okay? So think of hormones as messengers. They're so important, and we spend so little time thinking about what our hormones are doing on the inside. When we say the word hormones, most people think about, the guy and like girl hormones, estrogen and testosterone. Those are probably the top two hormones people think of when you say hormones. All right, but there's so many more. So today we're going to talk about a few of those. So one, hunger hormones, okay? So hunger is a biofeedback cue of what is going on in your system. So we've got two hunger hormones. There's one called ghrelin. It kind of gives us the hour-to-hour hunger signals. So they can, for example, tell us, let's say I ate eggs and spinach for breakfast, and 2 hours later I'm starving. That might tell my body, you know what, in the morning, eggs and spinach, 2 eggs and spinach just isn't enough. Maybe I need some carbohydrates with that. Maybe I need a little side of oatmeal. Maybe I need some more fat in that. Maybe I need some more fibrous vegetables in that. Maybe I need some more liquid. Maybe I just didn't drink enough water. So hunger hormones, that hour-to-hour hunger hormone of ghrelin, can give us an indicator of how the foods we're eating are sustaining us. So when you're trying to eat clean and be more nutritious, you should never feel hungry all the time. If you're feeling hungry all the time, then we got to make some changes. We've got to add more protein. That's more satiating. Maybe we need to add more fiber. Again, more satiating. Maybe even a little more fat to keep us fuller longer, okay? We just want to make sure that, oftentimes when you have gone to eating a lot of food and like a lot of processed foods, high fat foods, and now you're starting to make the switch, yes, you're going to feel hungry right off the bat. But if it's weeks and weeks and you're still feeling hungry all the time, it's time to make some adjustments. So if you go from, if you half your portion sizes and now you're eating normal portion sizes for yourself, yes, it does stand to reason that you will be hungry until your body regulates. So in that situation, for example, I would recommend that you don't just hack it down all the way to normal portion sizes. Gradually give yourself some time. Take it from that big hanking plate, get a little smaller, and a little smaller until you're at a normal portion size for your body weight and size, okay? That's gonna make your journey a lot easier, a lot less uncomfortable. It's gonna take a longer runway, but it is gonna be a lot more comfortable, increasing your likelihood of sticking to it, okay? We also have another hormone called leptin. It's more of our satiation hormone. It kind of works more from day to day. It tells us kind of our hunger level on the larger scale day to day. You might notice, if you have gotten to the point of being in tune with your body, on your days when you're not as active, I notice this all the time. On days when I'm not nearly as active, I notice that my hunger is just not that high either. So it's your body helping you to regulate that energy output with the energy input. So if I'm not putting out a lot of energy, I might find that I just don't need to take that much energy in. You might find the inverse as well. You might have a day where today you had a really high active day. Maybe you ate normal or fewer calories than normal. The next day, you might find that your body's like, wow, we really worked hard yesterday. We didn't really get that much fuel to replenish what you put out, so we're going to drive you to eat a little bit more today. So just be listening to that and looking at your day-to-day activities, not just physical activities, but your eating activities, and just be aware of those hormones, ghrelin and leptin, the hunger and the satiation hormone, and use those to help you make decisions on which way to go next when it comes to your nutrition, okay? So we also have to keep in mind that often things like stress will increase our hunger. So look at that piece of the picture too. So stress increases blood sugar because our body is, when we are under stress, our body is dumping sugar into the bloodstream. Yes. So this is because our body is getting ready to do something big. Like we get stressed, like, you know, we see a lion and we know that we're going to have to go sprinting away from that lion. Well, our body's going to need some sugar in the bloodstream to use as a fuel source. So people that are under constant stress are constantly dumping sugar into the bloodstream, okay? When this happens, we either crash and then we feel hunger, right? Or insulin comes out and it takes, this is what part of the crash, insulin comes out and it starts to take the blood sugar to the muscles and the liver to be stored as a fuel for later in case another lion comes by. If your body's not going to use it up by sprinting, so your boss comes in, just yells at you and walks away, you're not going to get up and start sprinting to burn off those sugars. You're going to sit down and do the work he told you to do or whatever. And now your body is left to process those sugars that just dumped into the bloodstream, okay? So now we are left with high blood sugar, no activity to burn it off, so it's getting put into the liver and the muscle. It's not getting used because you got to sit there and do that work, and now it's going to get stored as fat, okay? In that process of insulin coming in and trying to process through, help you with all that sugar, you crash, you get hungry, you start craving. Okay, so it's really important to link up those feelings of hunger and cravings and energy crashes with what just happened in the last hour. What food did I put in? What situation or environment was I in? And how can I be more aware of that? So that if I get that stress and that blood sugar dump and then that crash, I'm not as, if I can be aware of that's happening, I can say, okay, look, I know what's going on. I know that my blood sugar's crashed, but I don't want to exacerbate the problem by now putting in sugars and starches, those things that I'm driven to eat right now. Let's get a balanced meal, a salad and some chicken, and let's get myself back into balance, okay? So really important to start listening to those things. So we also have the cravings. So again, I kind of explained how that works when it comes to that stress load and then the dumping of the sugar and the insulin, and that drives us to just get anything in our mouth that will help us to boost our energy levels again. Okay, so also important to remember that lack of sleep is going to be an indicator, and increased exercise. Too much exercise can often cause us to crave because our body is expending so much energy that it's like, just feed me. So that's what happens when we do this exercise more and eat less thing we do. That's how we typically think that's how we lose weight. We exercise more and we eat less. We just need this calorie deficit. But when we just keep pushing it, we push so hard and put all this energy out, and we don't give our body the fuel to replenish that energy, we're going to end up crashing because our body cannot tolerate that for long. So as I said, it might tolerate that for a day, but then the next day it's going to tell you, hey, you did all that stuff yesterday. You didn't give me a lot of food. Let's eat a little more today, by giving you a dose of that hunger hormone to drive you to eat a little bit more, okay? So it wants a comfortable environment where it doesn't feel threatened. And it's going to instigate hormones to help that environment, okay? So lack of sleep, again, I've talked to you about this before. Lack of sleep makes us feel fatigued. It's stressful to the body. So again, we're still in that stressed state. So we tend to think of stress as being the boss yelling at us or a kiddo running into the street, but we stress ourselves every day when we don't get enough sleep. And we wake ourselves up at the crack of dawn because we gotta get that 2 hours of exercise in, which is too much. So now we've doubled up our stress by knowing that our boss is irritated and we didn't get enough sleep, but we got up and got to the gym anyway. We pushed really hard. We're gonna reduce our calories. So we think we got this big plan going. It's all gonna work because the numbers add up, right? However, we're driving ourselves into this stress state in all these different ways, and then we get that blood sugar, and then we get that crash, we get that dump of sugar and the crash from the insulin, the fat storage environment. So it's really important to remember that these are all clues. If I'm craving, that's a clue something's not right. That's a clue that either maybe I'm fatigued, maybe I'm over-exercised, I'm just fatigued and my body is like, give me something to replenish what you put out in the gym. Maybe I'm overstressed. Maybe the foods that I ate were too high sugar foods and I just kept rising and crashing and rising and crashing, driving my body to crave more of those foods. So really sometimes we just have trigger foods. Cheese. Cheese is one of those foods that many people, they eat the cheese and it starts there, but then they need more and more and more. Maybe it triggers that comfort food signal in their brain. Sugar is a trigger food for many people. Oftentimes a piece of bread might trigger a sugar craving as well. So milk, same thing. There's a lot of sugars in milk. So we got to be aware of the foods that we eat that then drive us to eat other foods that aren't really as supportive of our body. So keeping in mind that cravings are always telltale of something. And each of us is different. I can't give you the formula for that. We just have to be aware of what is going on in our body, what just happened in the last half an hour, last meal. So look back anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours and see if you can put the pieces together. It's kind of being a detective. Okay, so another thing is the digestion. So stress, again, our gut is called our second brain, which means that if our brain is really tense and stressed, very likely that our gut is going to be tense and stressed. Some people are going to feel it more than others. Some people are simply just not going to absorb their nutrients as well, and that will go unnoticed for quite some time. So you can think about digestion, and if you're gassy, if you're bloated, if you're constipated, if your stools are loose, if things are just plain old weird in your gut, that's a huge indicator that something's not quite right. Not that something's drastically wrong, but you have to think about, what did I eat that causes me to bloat? And sometimes this can be hard to figure out. Sometimes it takes eliminating one food at a time to figure out what that food is that's causing you to be bloated or gassy or constipated or loose. So it could be that, it could be stress. I have one client that has tons of digestive issues. She went on vacation, not a problem. 35 minutes after she got back to work, all the stuff started again. So it's a clear indicator that the stress was causing the issue. So that stress is our brain connecting with our gut. You know how you say, oh, my gut just knows, it's just a feeling? That's where that gut-brain connection happens. It's really not super tangible, but it is definitely visible in our body. So keep in mind, if your digestion is just off or weird, you may have to just take some time and just get rid of dairy, get rid of wheat, get rid of eggs. Let me give you a list of a few of the places you might start. And I would suggest starting with one at a time so that you can really determine and really plan on when you eliminate this food for a week or so. Listen to your body and say, oh gosh, my body feels really good. Okay, so some of these things, I'm going to start with probably some of the top offenders, okay? Dairy. Dairy tends to make people crave, tends to make people phlegmy. So if you are somebody that's congested or constantly has to clear your throat, dairy can show up in skin issues. And there's a lot of things that go along with gut issues for sure, bloating and gassiness, weird stools, things like that. So dairy is one that would be worth eliminating if you've got issues with your gut. Second would be wheat. Dairy and wheat often go hand in hand. If a person is sensitive to dairy, they're often sensitive to wheat. So you might try eliminating dairy for a week, see how you do, take close notes. And then the next week, try to eliminate, you could either bring back in the dairy if you didn't notice a change one way or the other. And then the next week, try to eliminate wheat and see how your body does there. If you feel like you're just on the cusp of identifying something, take it a few days longer to give your body that time. You might then say for the third week, say, okay, let's try wheat and dairy and see what happens then, okay? So we have dairy, we have wheat, corn is often an offender, eggs for some people can cause a sensitivity, soy. That is in a lot of foods, so you've got to check those processed foods and see where the soy is hiding. And so when it comes to corn and corn oil, all corn-based things. So be aware if you're eating processed foods that corn hides in a lot of foods as well. Nuts, peanuts in particular, they're kind of a mold-producing food, so you do want to be careful with peanuts as well. So those last few are not quite as large as offenders as those first couple ones. So just be looking at some of these things, and you might be thinking, yeah, that could be me. Every time I eat eggs, I just get this weird feeling in my stomach or something like that, or I get some kind of weird skin issue. So be looking at your skin, be looking at your thoughts, be looking, are you foggy? Is your brain foggy? Really important to realize that brain fog is very related to our food. So skin, digestion, fatigue, brain fog, all of these are hunger, cravings, energy levels. These are all signs that either one way or the other, that a food is either working for us or not. Okay, the other one is mood. Are you anxious all the time? Or depressed. So if you are very just swingy and moody, and again, this could be the female hormones, for example, or even lack of male hormones. But often, anxiety and depression and just this feeling of heaviness, discouragement constantly comes from brain chemistry. The brain chemistry can be affected by the foods that we eat, okay? Also by the exercise that we do. So maybe you're not getting enough exercise. Maybe you're not getting the exercise at the right time of day for your body. Maybe the afternoon is your downtime, and your body really is just saying, get up and move me so I can get some of those good brain chemicals going so we can bypass this drop, okay? Those brain chemicals are dopamine and serotonin. So one of the foods that's really important is protein. You might be lacking protein. Protein supports those good positive brain chemicals of dopamine and serotonin. So if you're swinging, your moods are swinging, you're just mentally not feeling right, look to your food and look to start digging in and looking for those things. Also, stress depletes those brain chemicals, okay? So if you're under stress, and you're not eating enough protein, and you're not getting enough sleep, and you're not getting enough exercise, of course you're going to be moody, because all of those things support good mood and a good attitude and a good feeling of self-esteem and self-worth. So those things are all really important. So even making minor adjustments to those things can affect your mood. And recovery. So if you are finding that your body is just like drained, I was finding that I would work out really hard Sunday or Saturday, and I would take one of those weekend days off, and I'd work hard Monday through Friday, and by Friday my body was just like, no, my workout was kind of worthless. I was just kind of going through the motions. So I had to readjust and take a day off or a lighter day in the middle of the week to let my body have this recovery time. Also, if you're not recovering, look at your nutrition. Are you eating enough food, enough food that supports the output that you're putting out in the gym? So if you are excessively fatigued and sore day after day after day after day, that's not okay. So you need to be looking at that situation, and you could be low on human growth hormone, which happens when we sleep. You could be low on testosterone. You could be, your nutrition could be lacking. Your nutrition isn't quality enough to support the output, whether that means quality food or enough food to support what you're putting out. If you are not sleeping well and you've just been working really hard and your muscles are really sore, that's a sign of overtraining. So it's a sign to kind of back it off, and you don't have to back it off for long. Usually it's just a couple of days to give your body a chance to replenish, because your body actually builds the strength in those recovery times, okay? So it's really important that we have that recovery. And if you also find, this is another indicator of poor recovery, is an elevated resting heart rate. So if you're somebody that has this, I encourage everybody to do this, to take your resting heart rate, like first thing in the morning, do it like on a weekend when you don't have to pop up out of bed from an alarm, just when your eyes open. Take your pulse for a full minute. Make note, if you've got a Fitbit, it probably checks your pulse for you. Make note of where your pulse is on a regular time when you're feeling good. And then just if you're entering into a new program or starting to work out more, if your resting heart rate raises 10 beats per minute in that rested state, similar environment, it's most likely you're overtrained. So if today you test your resting heart rate, you're 55, in 3 weeks from now, after pushing really hard, not eating enough, and being stressed, you test and you're at 65 when you're resting, probably a good sign that you're overtraining, okay? So that can be an indicator too. Also, your cycle, your menstrual cycle, if it's like really out of whack, sometimes that can tell, well, always, that can tell us, as in like heavy bleeding or cramping or just that mood swing, your sex drive, if that's all out of whack and it's just not there, that's a hormonal indicator that something's not right. So usually when it comes to the whole PMS situation, it's an imbalance of estrogen and progesterone. So our progesterone has decreased by comparison to the estrogen levels in the body. This can happen because of stress. Stress can drive your progesterone level down. Also, you can be at the same time having too much estrogen coming in from environmental factors, perfumes and pesticides, cleaning solutions, things like that. So you have to look into that. And that is something that can be helped somewhat with a good diet, but also that stress level is something that we really got to look at in that situation, and really backing it down and treating yourself in a way that you're kind of pampering yourself to a state of recovery to get those hormones back in balance. Okay? So I just wanted to give you some ideas of what to be looking for as you're venturing into this health and fitness and wellness space. To be listening to your body. This is so important. We can't just look at a sheet of paper or a workout that someone gave us or a meal plan and think that that's going to do it all. We've got to make sure that while we're doing these programs, we are paying attention to what our body is doing, which could be completely different than a friend that you might be going through this program with. That person could experience something completely different. It's really the nitty-gritty, or the gravy, so to speak, of a program, is to take the time to recognize what your body is telling you about what you're doing to it. Thanks for watching today. Don't forget to subscribe below so you can keep getting notifications of great fitness nutrition information. Feel free to visit my website at www.missyvallisonfitness.com for more.